Hey, so another very close game in this test match, and as the thumbnail suggests, England got out of jail. They played the get out of jail free card, and it came off for them. Very close game. New Zealand had the better of the match for the majority of the match, and they played really well, really composed performance, and England just turned it on in the last 10 minutes. Mainly due to one player, I think two maybe, Freddie Stewart and Marcus Smith. I think he had a crack in the last 10-15 minutes and pulled it out of the fire for England. I think England were in all sorts of trouble throughout that match, and they were very happy with the draw. As the photographs suggest, they looked like they won the World Cup, and it was just a draw, 25-all. From the start of the match, some great phases from New Zealand, and from starting slowly, they've completely turned it around, and now they seem to start really quickly, which is great for them because I think they play better when they're in front usually. So it was a great start, and lots of nice phases from New Zealand. England were rushing up, and New Zealand used a couple of pick and goes. Artie Sphere recognised it, and Picken went from the base of ruck or maul a couple of times, and they also used a crossfield kick to great effect, with Caleb Clark being very good in the air. You had a lot of pundits calling into question his kind of ability in the air, and I think he proved a lot of people wrong, so congratulations to him. And all round again, I think he's growing into that role, and he showed some really good skills today. I was very happy with his performance. So there was a couple of turnovers then. New Zealand gave the ball back to England, but England, the scrum half, Palfoy is it? He had like a funny 5 minutes and passed the ball straight to Papalui. Great reading of the game, obviously, from Papalui, credit to him. But like you could see that he was going to intercept the ball, and he passed it anyway. And it was good, clean ball off the line out as well. And he just raced up, took it, and no one was catching him. Straight under the post for the first try. Then, as I said, a beautiful cross-field kick from Moanga. Caleb Clark collected it and, made some great yards. Good stepping. Come inside off his left foot a couple of times. And it was looking ominous for New Zealand. I did mention in the preview that if New Zealand's backline, which are very talented, if it clicked for them, England were in all sorts of trouble. And I think that was proven right for the majority of the match. New Zealand did look very threatening when they had the ball in their hand. And England did well in the end to come back for the draw. Looking ominous for England. The number 2, Cody Taylor, got the second try. And I was thinking, Takeako has gotten quite a few tries, but so has Cody Taylor. And I think, so we should give credit to the New Zealand front five, because really a hooker's try is a pack try, a front five try, not a back row try, obviously. Both of the New Zealand hookers, Cody Taylor and Takeako, have scored a bunch of tries in this autumn series, and I think it's testament to the hard work put in by the New Zealand front five. And they're quite beefy. They decided to beef up the kind of front row, especially early in the season after it wasn't that successful, and I think it's worked really well for them. Scrummaging is something we can get on to a little bit later. So New Zealand off to a flyer. England finally settled down after that and get back into the game. They put some nice phases together. The kick for the corner option, again, was very positive from England, and the crowd seemed to be far more pleased with the kind of the application and attitude of the players this time, to really getting behind the England side, which does help, especially when you're playing at home. So, Van Porfoy's funny 5 minutes, Artie Surveyor stole the ball off him at the base of a ruck. So he looked a little bit off the pace. He was very lackadaisical. If you're not familiar with that phrase, is like he was taking his time too much. He looked like he thought he had all the time in the world, and he really didn't. So if you compare and contrast that to Perenara and Aaron Smith, New Zealand scrum halves, and even Ben Youngs when he came on, he was too confident in his ability to get the ball away safely, and it cost him a couple of times. So I think he needs to mature as an international player and realize he doesn't have that time and space at that level, and people are going to not let him get away with things, you know what I mean? So England slightly favours England then after the 2 tries. And then Cody Taylor has a funny 5 minutes. New Zealand, for some reason, started to slow down the line out, and they were walking in really slowly. And I think that just threw him off completely. I think he lost 3 lineouts on the bounce, and he was smiling about it, which is good to see him like maintaining a positive attitude. But if I was coaching, I would not be smiling, because losing your set piece like that really in a soft way when the opposition doesn't even have to do anything and the ball is turned over, that's not a good look. So I hope it's not bad habits slipping back into his game, because he's been playing really well since he had that bad patch at the beginning of the season. But yeah, he kind of pulled it together after, like I said, it was like a 5 minutes, but it was like 3 quick lost balls for the New Zealanders. When the New Zealanders in the back line, once again, as I mentioned in the preview, when they put the ball through their hands in the back line, they looked really dangerous. I would have liked to have seen Bodie Barrett hit the line a little bit more, but when they kept the ball in their hands, they overdid the crossfield kick, I feel, a couple of times. But when they had the ball in hands, it looked really good and really sharp. And that was what I was hoping for from them before the match, is that finally that they get that continuity, they getting used to playing with each other, and they've got some excited player. I can't name one player who didn't do well in the New Zealand backline. I thought they all really did a great job. Ioane had a good match. Jody Barrett had a great match inside centre, taking the ball up more as like a traditional inside centre would do. And the wingers were great. I really starting to like Caleb Clark. I thought he was one-dimensional, but I'm really liking him. Every time I see him, he seems to play a little bit better. And, he's a very passionate guy, obviously, and it's really paying dividends in terms of his performance on the pitch. So, yeah, New Zealand looked very, very dangerous with ball in hand. England, they were doing pretty well when they had opportunities, but New Zealand kept getting the odd turnover and really kind of maintaining dominance because of those early tries. The scoreboard never really got back into England's favour. And the half finished at 17-3 to New Zealand. So it's quite a big halftime lead. Into the second half, England came out firing, piled on the pressure, and really good defence from New Zealand on their own line. And they held out England, and England were really looking for that early score. So credit to the New Zealand defensive effort. I thought Vitalik and Whitelock were really good, really physical, and there were some big hits being put in around the park. England are no lightweights, you know what I mean, and New Zealand matched them, so that was good to see from them. There was a turnover then. England were on the attack. Turnover, great, a double-up tackle in midfield. I think it was on Sam Simmons, and the ball was dislodged. And classic New Zealand play. They counter-attacked. Beautiful kick pass from Jody Barrett to Caleb Clark. Caleb Clark again showing that, he's a multi-dimensional player. He has, not in the multiverse, but he's a multi-dimensional player in terms of he has other aspects to his game, which is really good. Takes a nice catch and then beautiful hands, feeds it to Rico Ioane on full tilt, and beautiful timing of the run and the pass, and he just storms up the line, and no one is going to catch him, and it's over for New Zealand's third try, and it looks like curtains then for England. And one thing I will say after that you can see it's getting under England's skin a little bit. The writing is on the cards, and like they start chirping to the ref quite a lot. You can see Farrell is like a bit annoyed with the referee. You can hear it on the mic, and a lot of the players, particularly at scrum time, they start telling the ref what they think the referee should do. And I think he handled it pretty well, Reynard. He had kind of a controversial match with New Zealand against Australia, but I'm pretty happy with his performance. And in fact, I thought I saw like a lot of the thumbnails, drama, and the headlines. I didn't like watch this, look at the score or anything, but there was like drama, last minute drama, and I thought, oh no, not again. Another refereeing decision to decide the test match. But fortunately, that wasn't the case this time. There was a little bit of controversy, but I think on the whole, I think I was happy with his refereeing performance. A lot of penalties given against England, so they may feel like the penalty count was against them. But as far as I can see, he explained why he'd given the penalties, and it was acceptable. You know, there wasn't anything major I think that he got wrong. He gave the grounding try later on to England, and I think that giving the player the benefit of the doubt there, I think was the right call. So, and he went on off his TMO's recommendation. So, yeah, finally, look at a decent refereeing performance in a very, very high pressure test match. So that was good to see. So there's 30 minutes left. England 6, New Zealand 22. As I said, Farrell starts getting under. He like pulls himself together later, but he starts back chatting the ref a little bit. Scrum time has been great all game, I think. One for the rugby purists, I'll admit. You know, it did slow the game down quite a bit, but both teams I thought were scrummaged really well. The referee pinged a couple of the props for knees on the floor early on in the game, but after that, they held the scrums, and they looked really low, really tight, and really strong on both sides. New Zealand wrecked the England scrum one time, but apart from that, it was pretty even Stevens. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that scrum battle, and I'm glad that it's part of the game. I would never want to get rid of it. I know people for the audiences want a faster game, but to me that's part and parcel of playing rugby. You know, that scrum game, and it affects the loose play as well, because if you're drained from playing hard in the scrum, then it's going to affect your performance around the park as well, get into breakdowns. It's going to force handling errors on the team that's kind of backpedaling in the scrum. If you've ever played in the scrum, you know what I mean. You know, it takes it out of you. And I think talking about taking it out of you, I think the group was looking gassed. He'd put in a pretty good shift, I think, in the scrum, and it'd been hard work against Sinclair. It was a big lump, both front rows pretty big. And and it was nice to see the timing of the subs for the front row for both teams. I think England's could have gone on a little bit longer, their front row, but New Zealand's came on at the right time, I think. So England conceded a lot of penalties, rightly so, I think, for the majority of the time. I don't particularly have any complaints. I don't think England can. And they kind of weathered the storm a little bit, and then the subs came on for both sides, and I think that's where the game turned big time in England's favour. There was about 10 to 15 minutes left. England emptied the bench, put everybody on. New Zealand not so much, but they brought most of their substitutions on, and I think just England subs played a little bit better than the New Zealanders. Their fresh legs actually worked for them, and a big impact, I think, on the game was Farrell getting an injury. Now, he stayed on, but he couldn't take any of the kicks, like penalties, looking for touch, or kicking out of hand, or kicking for goal. So that responsibility went to Marcus Smith, and he absolutely relished it. And I think this has highlighted the issue of playing Marcus Smith and Farrell. Farrell is doing all of the traditional outside half role, and Marcus Smith, I think, feels like that puts him in his shell. You know, whether they should or not, whether he should overcome that, you know, that's not for me to say, kind of thing. But when he was given that responsibility of leading the team, he really took it with both hands, and he really got the England backline going. Old Johnny, the youngling May, as well, had a big impact in those last 10-15 minutes. Doing what he does best, like accelerating into contact. That's what makes him so dangerous. He doesn't keep the same speed. As he approaches contact, he accelerates, because he's totally fearless, Johnny May. I don't know if you noticed, but like fearless and reckless is like a fine line, but he's completely fearless. And Johnny May is like a master at it. And yeah, he made some nice breaks, and he was involved in all three tries, as was Freddie Stewart, who's he had quite a quiet game for the majority of the match, and then like in the last 10 he seemed to be involved in anything, hitting the line, as any good fullback should do, to create the overlap, to create the numbers. And he looked very powerful. He's a big strong boy, and he goes that big stride. He's quite hard to bring down, good hands. There was a lovely offload by one of the English players as well. I'm not sure who it was. He's one of the subs. I think the second row, maybe Ribbons. But yeah, it was England scored that pushover kind of, not pushover, but that tight try with the questionable grounding. And then they scored again from Freddie Stewart. And then again, in like the dying moments of the match, Marcus Smith put over the kick, and that was his 25-all. And then it's a bit controversial, I guess Marcus Smith like finishing the game by kicking it out. But yeah, I mean, if you were an England fan, you would kind of like to have seen them go for the win there, because definitely the momentum was hugely in their favour. But you can also understand the fact of like, look, we've gotten out of jail here, and a draw is a fair result. So let me know what you think about that. I'm not 100% sure if he did the right thing or not, because he had such a good game. It's like when someone's played so well, you're not sure if you should question them or not. But yeah, I think maybe he could have tried something, but it could have gone either way. But I think at that point, yeah, and that's how it finished. England definitely got out of jail there. I think New Zealand had the better of the match, and they looked like a very good team that England were happy to even live with through individual brilliance at the end of the game. So yeah, well played to New Zealand. Very, very solid performance. I think they can be happy with it. Obviously in the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, that's when they usually shine. They didn't this time. The coach Foster will have a look at his substitutions, I'm sure. Have a look at that bench and see if there's anything that anyone else can offer, because they didn't really perform when they came on. England, on the other hand, excellent. Their bench was awesome when they came on. Really had an impact in the match. And a great test match again. That's all I can say. So onwards and upwards for both teams. I think Eddie Jones has saved his job yet again. And looking forward to next year's internationals. All right. Nice one. Peace.